Wow. Wow. That is very fancy. Welcome to the conference championship round and a live stream, another live stream here at fantasypoints.com. I'm John Hansen. There's Greg Cosell, and there's Adam Caplan, the guy on the other side of the glass. He created all those fancy graphics and introductions. Ben Kukanis. All right. Well, we're down to just 3 more games, so let's break it down. Adam, we'll start with you injury-wise. Cincinnati, Kansas City. What do you got here injury-wise? Seems like we're in okay shape. Obviously, Tyrann Mathieu, the big one.
Yeah, he's good. He worked today. He took all of his reps. He's got to work tomorrow without any issues and also get cleared by independent neurologists, and he'll play. Trent Williams is still he's on the better half of questionable for the game. Not that they need him at this point with the other two backs, but he's a little, he's more of a grinder than the other two guys. And that would be it. And then for Cincinnati, really just the kid Topu, who's in their rotation, the D tackle.
Josh.
He's playing with a knee sprain, but other than that, that's it for the injuries in that game.
All right. Well, Greg, obviously Cincinnati got it done last week. I'm curious your thoughts about Burrow's performance. Obviously it was good. They won. He threw for over 300. It did feel to me watching it just on television that they kind of rattled him a little bit. They kind of got to him. I mean, he had horrible protection for much of the game. How did Joe Burrow, how do you rate that performance overall compared to the other performances this year?
Burrow was sacked 9 times and hit a lot. Some were his fault, some were not. I thought he battled both mentally and physically. I thought it ultimately was a strong performance to compensate for a poor pass protecting O-line. This is not a very good O-line. They're going to have to address that this offseason. But I thought he really battled. I mean, he does not truly get rattled, John. I mean, he's pretty much stays in the game mentally and physically, and I thought he did. He got beat up in that game, and for him to come out and end the game the way he did, I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the talk of the headset not working early in the first half is literally the exact moment where I thought, oh, he looks a little rattled here. But yeah, no question about it. He hung in there and hung tough here. Compare the challenge that he's up against in terms of comparing it to last week with the Titan front, because they were nasty last week, I thought.
Yep, and they've been nasty
compare
all
that
year.
Compared to what he's up against this week against KC. I feel like at least pass rush wise, it's comparable.
I think KC has some good players. I would say overall that the pass rush of the Titans is probably better, but it might not be better by a significant amount. Certainly Chris Jones can dominate. Certainly Frank Clark can be really good. Ingram can be good. I mean, look, their O-line is not very good. So they're playing against some good players who can win one-on-ones. And, which is one reason I think just to play, play the tactical game here, I think you're going to see the Chiefs play more 2-man coverage to take care of those wideouts than they did in the first matchup, week 17, because I think they'll feel, John, that they can get there with 4. So, because don't forget, when you play single high, there's no way that safety gets to any throws outside the numbers. He just doesn't. So if you play 2-man, you have a chance. It's not automatic because they played 2-man actually on the last 19-yard throw to Chase that set up the winning field goal. But that was an outside route. So he couldn't get there. But when all's said and done, I wouldn't be surprised to see them play more 2-man and rely on that 4-man pressure because that O-line is simply not very good.
Let me give you on that, Greg, and guys, let me just go over a little bit in terms, just to give people an idea of how bad their line is in terms of the talent they're putting out there. Quentin Spain is a run-blocking guard. I remember talking to the Bills about him. He's a certain type of player. He's not very good in pass protection, okay? They put this kid, Isaiah Prince, out there, who they got off waivers from the Dolphins last year. Adenji's a 6th-round pick at right guard. You're taking players that you normally wouldn't want out there. Jackson Carman was the kid you were hoping would be ready. I think he was hurt earlier this year, maybe.
He was, but he was a 2nd or 3rd round pick. You're right.
Right, 2nd-round pick. So the fact that these guys are out there at this time of year, yeah, Burrow's going to be under duress. There's no question about it. There's no way getting around it. It's not like all of a sudden these guys have become good players all of a sudden. This is what you're working with. Jordan Williams is really good.
At times they try to compensate when they anticipate pressure or when they anticipate, or based on down and distance by keeping a back and or a tight end in to add to the protection. But they don't really want to do that, but they almost have to.
What did you think of Joe Mixon, how they utilized him? There was a period during the game, I'm like, man, you might as well just hand the ball off here, try and match Derrick Henry. And they kind of did that. And I liked how he got to the edges a little bit here. Running inside against Tennessee was an exercise in futility. But, I mean, that was a handy guy here. I mean, it's like, that's right. Joe Mixon's a stud talent. And they used him. Well,
the deal was this, John. In the first half, every snap by the Bengals offense came out of 11 personnel. They couldn't run the ball at all.
Yeah.
On the first drive of the third quarter, when Mixon scored the touchdown, they came out in 12 personnel. Okay. And they had some good runs. He had a 10-yard run and the 16-yard touchdown run. They were the same runs. It was outside zone to the weakness of the Titans over front. Okay. And Mixon is a great cutback runner. But for the most part, except for a few runs that did come out of 12 personnel, they couldn't run the ball at all. So we'll see what happens this week. They do want to run it. They're not a team that just says, let's throw it every snap, but we'll see how they try to run it this week.
I mean, I'm looking at the snaps here. It seemed like Boyd was on the field 91% of the time. I'm still bitter because I kind of liked Boyd. And then Uzama did have the big game. But in terms of how you think the Chiefs will play basically Chase and Higgins on the outside, is there anything that in theory would open up, like Uzama in the middle of the field, Mixon?
Well, like I said a moment ago, I think you'll see them play a particular coverage more than they normally do. But what you see from the Chiefs is they play cover 2. Since week 8, they've played more snaps of cover 2 than any team in the NFL. And especially if Matthew plays, he's phenomenal as the middle hole defender in cover 2. They will play cover 1. I think they'll play more snaps of 2-man because that gives you 2 deep safeties to take care of Chase, Higgins, theoretically Boyd as well. Don't forget their slot corner is Snead. He's not a bad player. Uzama, who would he be played by? It could be Sorensen, could be Thornhill.
And Sorensen's not very
Honey
good,
Badger,
right?
No, Sorensen's not very good, but they still use him at times to match up to the tight end.
Well, he's long. Yeah, he's tall.
Yeah, okay. But it could be Thornhill. It could be Matthew. I think that remains to be seen. But, look, they got burned, as we've discussed, and you go back to the Week 17 game when Chase caught 3 balls outside the numbers versus Ward. And by the way, Ward had good coverage. It wasn't like Chase killed him. Okay. Higgins scored 1 against Ward. Because Ward plays left corner. He stays to that side. He's the left corner.
Well, Greg, too, KC's D, they I'm sure there's concern here because, you mentioned that game. And then last week, I mean, they've been getting smoked in the secondary the last 3 or 4 games.
Yeah. But their advantage in this game is the pass rush. See, that's the issue. So we'll see. No, they have been getting smoked. But I think that is a concern.
And on the other side, I don't have any other thoughts on the Bengal offense, Adam, unless you do. It seemed like Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, he's probably seeing a lot of 2 deep safeties too. And it seems like he's running more, to the point of taking what the defense gives him. And part of that is being willing, especially in the playoffs, to take off and run as he did last week. Boy, I didn't watch the coach's tape, but man, it sure seemed like, Greg, the continued, just bounce back for Mahomes is gaining momentum. It's like he's getting better every week.
Well, Mahomes did not throw a ball more than 20 yards in the air from the line of scrimmage. He's very, very rhythmic now. He's playing really well. The Bills got a lot of people around him, John. They just couldn't get him to the ground. And Mahomes obviously has very good second reaction ability. We know that.
That's what that was. Yeah, he scrambled and he just
yeah.
After he got an opening and he just.
I take that as a compliment, though. You know,
I mean, in some ways, you could argue that the Bills' defense, which sounds crazy to say because they gave up 42.
I know where you're going. Yeah,
actually kind of did what they wanted to do. They got people around him. They pressured him. He made great plays. Yep. They couldn't get him to the ground. The 62-yard touchdown to Hill, which arguably was a killer, even though many things happened afterwards.
Yeah.
They were playing 2-man coverage, which is a great coverage to play. So it was just an odd game. I think Mahomes, though, is playing at a really high level.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you said there, it kind of is a good sign. Didn't throw it down the field all that much, took what the defense gave him. And that's,
I mean, Mahomes is a smart kid. You can just see by the way he plays. He gets it. He understands it. He sees it. He knows what he's looking at. I think he's playing really well. I mean, I think you saw the evolution of Mahomes this year, and it sounds crazy to say that because obviously his first 3 years were pretty damn good, but everybody has to adjust. Everybody has to continue to improve. And I think Mahomes really showed what he is this year mentally and how smart he is and how willing to be coached he is. I think it really speaks highly of Patrick Mahomes.
Absolutely. I'm more impressed by him now based on the last 2 months than I've been since he burst onto the scene, basically.
Yeah. I mean, so anyway, just getting back to this matchup, the bottom line is you still have to try to pressure Mahomes. You can't just say, well, we're not going to pressure him. I mean, you want to speed up every quarterback. Obviously he made great plays, on this week's second reaction scrambles, and you hope that doesn't happen. But the Bengals actually have a very good stunt game. They're very multiple with their stunt concepts. They move people around. Hubbard's kind of a wild card, the way they use him. They're going to have to do these kinds of things. You got to speed up Mahomes.
Yeah. I didn't notice Hendrickson as much in that game last week for Cincy. I noticed Hubbard out there.
Well, you know what they did? Didn't they, if I'm not mistaken, did they come out with a 5-man front in that game?
They came out with a 6-man front because they were playing a team that's not. Don't forget, John, the team they just played is nothing like the Chiefs. Nothing like the Chiefs.
Exact opposite.
Almost a polar opposite.
Yeah.
That was not a pass rush game for the Bengals because of who they played.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Tyreek looked healthy. He's back. I mean, I was worried about him and that heel at him like 3 weeks ago, right? I mean, he's back.
Yeah, no, he's fine.
He looked pretty fast on that long touchdown.
Yeah, I know. They couldn't catch. He had the Jets on. Yeah, he had the Jets on. It's kind of like, what can you do when he gets out in the open field? And you remember now, not only was he doing well, he had the return. They took off Pringle on the return and they had him on it. And he took all his reps yesterday and today, so he's good to go. It is really remarkable what they were able to do. That game was Greg, by the way, coach and tape, what did you have an anticipation what you thought it would look like because you watched it on TV? But was it even better when you watched the tape on Monday or whenever you watch it Monday?
Yeah, I took fortunately, because I only had 4 games to watch this week, I took way too long to watch that game because I wouldn't have been able to do that during the regular season.
Sure.
Yeah, I probably took like 3 hours to watch each side of the ball. It was a lot of fun to watch.
How was it? The quarterback play, how high level?
The quarterback play was ridiculously high level. I'm not sure there was a bad play by either quarterback in the game.
And they threw the ball a lot. That's saying a lot. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he lost the game, but Josh Allen was just phenomenal.
I kind of like Edwards-Helaire in this game.
And they ran him a couple of times.
He looked great, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean,
really good.
I'm just going to my notes because they ran him in a specific way, and I made a note of that, and I just want to say it the right way. So just give me a minute here.
Was it a shotgun runs? Were they shotgun runs?
They were shotgun runs, yes.
Yeah, because he looked really good, like explosive, and he had a lot of space if you noticed.
His first 22-yard run, which was on the 3rd possession, actually came out of 13 personnel. Okay, 3 tight ends, but just to show you how the Bills and some teams still play them, they were still playing 2 shell coverage versus 13 personnel.
Hmm.
So, That was a 22-yarder, and then he had another run later. His 20-yarder, it was actually the same concept as his 22-yard run that I just mentioned. So it was the exact same run concept where they brought Gray, they brought a tight end into the formation. They inserted him into the formation as the lead blocker.
Yeah, I kind of like him in this game. I mean, the Chiefs are home favorites, touchdown plus. You know, Jerick McKinnon seems to be more of a factor in the passing game. That's the thing, Adam. We still can't figure out. I know he's been in and out of the lineup, but why isn't Edwards-Helaire more involved in the passing game? We still can't figure that one out.
He's not playing a ton of snaps.
Yeah, he's also smaller. Yeah.
And by the way, John,
by the way, the injury was John. He has a significant injury. It was a shoulder injury. Do you want a guy on third down pass protecting with a shoulder injury?
And also, McKinnon's always been a really good receiver, John. A really good receiver. Yep. So, I mean, they're probably not messing with what's working right now for them. I mean, McKinnon.
McKinnon looked. Another thing is McKinnon looks explosive. I know as a runner he didn't do well.
So I mean,
he had great plays in the pass game.
They're not going to mess around now with Edwards-Helaire. I mean, he'll get snaps, but it's not. He's not their primary back.
Not anymore. He needs an offseason, John, of health, which he has not been healthy. Like he's had a bunch of injuries in his 2 years, and he just has not played well. Let's face it. He's been
pretty good this year. Like he's been
not really,
but he's had some good games. You know, whereas
up and down, better than last year, which was an abomination.
John, we're talking now what's happened recently. Right now, he's not going to be the guy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, if they're trying to pound out a victory late, you know, if they're up, you know, in the fourth quarter.
Maybe then he might get carried.
Yeah. But McKinnon, look, Edwards-Helaire looks healthy. He looked explosive. I thought he looked. I know he had some good games this year.
He's not explosive most of the time this year.
He looks super explosive in this game. Now you could say the spacing was great. It was. Is that a shotgun? Okay, but the fact matters, he looked pretty good. So maybe he carries it over. Now, is he going to get 40 snaps this game? I doubt it. Based on the way and Williams, by the way, Darrell Williams might play.
Yeah, is he coming back?
Well, he hasn't been cleared yet. He's got. I mean, look,
I got Edwards-Helaire with 12 damn carries over here, so I'm not saying he's going to be, you know, Derrick Henry, but
he only got 7. Think about. Now I understand it was an up and down game. It's a passing game.
Yeah,
it was a shootout, but he only got 7 carries with Williams out of lineup. So if Williams plays, I don't know how many carries he's going to get.
I know you hate the player props, but last week I think I mentioned the George Kittle one, which I said was a lock, and it hit. Edwards-Helaire, 37.5 rushing yards. I mean, come on now. He's going to go over that one, I think, with a good matchup here.
Yeah, I was surprised, Greg. Let's talk about that for a second. I know that Henry did – well, you could tell us. You saw the tape. I was surprised that the Titans didn't run better. I know Foreman looked good, but did Henry not look like himself?
I didn't think so, no.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's to be expected. I kind of expected it. I had him with 20 carries. I think he got 20.
He got 20.
But I had him with –
that last run, when he stopped, when he didn't go forward, that was like not like him.
Isn't that what he used to do, Greg? When he was struggling, he would stop moving his feet.
Yeah, but I did say that overall he did not have the same burst in velocity. He looked a step slower.
There you go.
So that's what I thought watching the tape.
Gotcha.
Now, is Derrick Henry, and we'll move on in a minute, but is Derrick Henry that guy like a Gurley to where the average person doesn't see the step, the loss of the juice there, that little burst? But we do, and that's kind of everything. Is Derrick Henry that guy where if he loses that little burst, he's a lot less, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, that's true, John, for sure. I guess you could probably say that about most backs, but certainly, that's true.
True. I guess with Henry though, I mean, we're just conditioned now. I'll give him 29 carries and all that, but if he doesn't have that burst, he may get 29 carries and run for 66 yards.
I mean, again, not that we want to discuss the Titans because they lost, but this has now been 2 years in a row, okay, where they've gone to the playoffs and they haven't been able to run the ball. Yep. And because their pass game can't operate independently.
You brought this up last week. That's a private game. That's right. Not good.
Yeah.
Well, I picked the Bengals because they have, like you said, Greg, a running game and a passing game that can operate independent from one another.
I mean, you guys know I don't rip coaches because I know how hard I work, so I know how hard they work. So I don't rip coaches, but the Titans clearly have a philosophy. One could debate whether that's a championship philosophy, and that's a reasonable debate for reasonable people. I'm not talking about people who just want to yell and scream about it. It's a reasonable debate. But Mike Vrabel came out and said, we played Titans football. That was our kind of game. So, in a sense, the Titans played Titans football. The only issue with that is you get into close games and you can lose based on a play or two. And you don't really want to be in that situation. So
because they're married to a specific way of playing on offense.
Correct.
And this is what you were talking about last week. And I think it's so apropos based on not only what happened, but over Tannehill's career, he gets stuck when it's put on him to carry the team. He has not been able to do it. He couldn't do it in Miami. He throws the ball well, but when he gets play action going, when the running game is going well and he plays off that, he looks like a really good quarterback.
Yeah,
you put a lot on him.
He had a bad game no matter what last week.
And the last pick, I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Well, we don't need to spend time on that, but I would disagree about his picks. But anyway, that's
all right.
That's a whole nother. We don't need to spend time on.
He had a rough game, but Greg, one thing before we get out of this matchup, the Bengals D line versus the Chiefs O line. How do you see that matchup?
Well, I think the Bengals are going to have to, obviously the Chiefs are not a running team. They will run, but they're not a running team. They're going to have to somehow try to create pressure. You'll see multiple stunt concepts. You'll see Hubbard as a joker sometimes. You'll see those kinds of things. They're actually getting really good play from B.J. Hill. He's a very interesting player. So they're going to have to try to create pressure and speed Mahomes up. You can't just let Mahomes sit back there. And keep one thing in mind. You will see the Trey Flowers, Travis Kelce matchup. It will absolutely happen in this game.
Advantage.
Well, Kelce is obviously advantage Kelce, but he's their best matchup on Kelce, a far better matchup than Von Bell.
Yeah.
It's funny. Flowers, they didn't need him to play against the tight end last week because those guys are going to block. He only played 5 snaps. He'll probably play like 40 snaps in this game.
Right, but he did match up to Ferkser a couple of times last week.
Did he?
And Ferkser's obviously not Kelce, but he will match up to Kelce. He matched up to Kelce when they played Week 17.
Yeah.
He matched up to Waller in the playoff game. He matched up to Kittle earlier in the season. He might matched up to Andrews.
That's quite defined for them.
He's their tight end matchup when they play a quality tight end.
Well, second game on Sunday is San Fran at LA. Greg, starting with actually, Adam, start with you injury wise here. What do you got on Nick Bosa?
Fine. Nothing. He's not hurt.
Okay.
They rest him. Yeah, they just rested him. The only guy they're concerned about now is Trent Williams. He hasn't done anything through Thursday. So they'll see what happens tomorrow. Now that we talked about this last week, Greg. So you said the McKivitz kid played well, right?
Yeah, but I would find it, and Adam, I don't know their staff in the sense of how they view their worldview, but I have to believe that if Trent Williams doesn't do one thing this week and then says Saturday at 4 p.m, I feel good, he's going to play.
Sure. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. In the playoffs, like in the regular season, when a guy doesn't practice, you're more wary about him as a coach. The coaches will tell you, you know what? If he's not ready, if he didn't practice, we're not going to play him. Where here, it's not
that ain't happening this week.
If he could stand on 1 foot, he's playing.
Correct.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Is Trent Williams the best left tackle in football this year, Greg?
I mean, I haven't studied every one. I don't do that, that kind of thing. But I will tell you this: I'm blown away every time I watch the Niners because of their run game and what he's asked to do. And he looks like a running back when he moves.
Yeah, I mean, he's like running around like a 25-year-old.
Well, they did. How about that thing speaking of that, what did that tape look like?
Oh, that play where he ran across the formation where he was actually offset as a tight end, basically.
Yeah,
and he
really
went
cool.
and he worked across the formation. He looks like a running back.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I knew it was good when Washington let him go, But how did Jimmy play overall in your mind?
He only threw 19 balls. He made a couple of good throws when needed. They didn't really ask him to do very much, but I want to say this about Jimmy Garoppolo. There's no mystery to what he is. People talk about him like, they talk about him like he couldn't make a first grade roster. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they think he is. We know what he is. Okay. But he's in an offense with Shanahan that asks him to make a lot of difficult throws between the numbers. And he makes those throws with great confidence and great conviction. And there's a lot of bodies in there. So you're going to make some bad throws because that's where he's asked to make throws. And
in traffic.
And
yeah,
because he does not have a power arm or a loose arm, he doesn't really throw the ball outside the numbers. They don't ask him to do that. So
he's not very tall either.
You could say, gee, that's a limitation, and it is, which is obviously why they drafted Trey Lance. But the point is that Jimmy Garoppolo, he's in his second NFC Championship game in 3 years. So you can bitch and moan all you want about what he is, and he's not, a top 5 quarterback in the league. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say that the quarterback's the most important position on a team, and here's a guy who's in his second NFC Championship game in 3 years, and in the next breath say he stinks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his record's like 31-15.
Yeah, we know what he is. Like I said, he's not a high-level great quarterback. We know that.
Who do you think Kyle would rather go to war with in this game? Him, Jimmy G, or Kirky?
I mean, how can you answer that question, John? I don't know how to answer that.
But John, you just answered your question. The guy's a winner, and I hate to use that phrase because we all love it, but they do win. Now, here's the question to move this along here: how much a part of is the winning is he? Because they're married to the run. Their front is playing great, and they're still winning. And he's the quarterback. But
week 18, when they beat the Rams to get into the playoffs, he was a major part of the winning.
Yeah, he brought them back. Right, they were down and they brought them back. But the question is, if they put it on him, because we were just talking about Ryan Tannehill can't handle it, being asked to do a lot. You do wonder, because Jimmy, when he doesn't play well, he makes a dumb mistake here and there. I look at this game and so when they were down 17-0, so he made some big time throws in the game. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, he did. He made some big time throws, and he obviously threw 32 balls, which it wasn't a season high, but it was, he doesn't throw 30 balls, as John, as you know, very often.
Rarely does. Yeah, rarely does.
But in that game he did, and he made some really big time throws when needed. Do they want to play that game? No. They certainly don't want to get down 17-0. But, the way that team is constructed, and it seems to be antithetical to the rest of the NFL, because everybody will talk about the quarterback and the passing game, and certainly coming off the game we just saw Sunday night, when you have, arguably, and let's leave Tom Brady out of this, you have, because you don't know where he's going in his career, arguably 2 of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in the league on Sunday night playing. Garoppolo was obviously not in that conversation, but the Niners are a running football team. Look, they have dominated the Rams physically in the games they played them for the most part, okay? They've dominated them physically. They have rendered moot the Rams pass rush. They've made it irrelevant.
Wow.
Just because of the way they dominate physically in the run game. You could check the numbers, John, but I believe in the 2 victories this year against the Rams, they've had 75 rushing attempts. And obviously Garoppolo is not part of their run game. I believe they've had 75 rushing attempts for 291 yards.
Wow. Well, in his last 3, Jimmy G is averaging only 28 attempts a game, which is probably because they're running it.
Well, but that also counts that week 18 game where he threw 32 balls.
Yeah. Oh, it does. No, it does. Yeah. Yet he's still kicking ass in the matchup here, dating back even to last year. Over 9 yards an attempt, 73% completion rate. Is that all mostly because they're dominating up front?
Well, it's the scheme of their pass game too. The throws are there, and say what you want about Jimmy G, he is aggressive throwing the ball. He's not shy about turning it loose.
Yeah, I actually do think him and Kirk Cousins are comparable. I mean, I wasn't trying to be a jerk there. I feel like it's a viable question. I mean, Kirk's numbers are better. Jimmy G's win-loss record's better.
Right. Kirk was a 4th round pick, right? In 2012. Is that right? 2012.
Jimmy G was a 2nd round pick.
Right. In 14. Yeah, it is. Yeah. He's coached them both. So what else we got left in this game?
Elijah Mitchell in this matchup here. We know what they're going to do. Rams, your thoughts on their ability to basically stop, what has been 2 games in the books that, the success is there. How do the Rams change that?
Well, I don't know what they're going to do as far as the tactical tweaks, but they're going to play against a base offense because Juszczyk plays 40 to 50% of the snaps. They also line up with 2 tight ends. So the Rams are going to play a lot of base defense. We know that, which means they're going to play with a 5-man front. That's what they do in their base defense. They play a 5-2, and their 2 stack backers are Troy Reeder and Howard, number 32. So that's what they're going to play. So the question now is, how will the 49ers run the ball? But they will run the ball. And Debo is no longer like a little gimmicky guy who runs the ball. He is truly, it's like he's their second back.
Unbelievable. Yeah. He ran one in. He threw a touchdown pass with only one toss in the win.
He's their second back, John. I mean, it's not like a gimmick. He's back.
That's right. They only play 2. That's right.
Yeah,
he's 2 basically.
Because Jeff Wilson has an ankle and he might not even go this week.
Right, but Wilson, they took him out of the rotation.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Yep. And then Sermon is activated, right? And he's out.
He only plays on specials. Yeah, he only plays on
specials. Yeah. Greg, this year I do believe, though, that when Debo was lined up outside, he did often see Mr. Ramsey.
Sometimes. It's really funny what they do with Ramsey. I watched him this week. Ramsey did not line up over Evans on every snap by any means. In fact, I was watching in the fourth quarter, and the Rams got, the Bucks got the ball with like 6 minutes to go. Like 5 plays in a row, Ramsey was not lined up over Evans. So, I mean, clearly that is not a priority for how they want to play. Now, John, he will line up over Debo. I'm not saying he won't. Sure. But that they don't think in terms of this is the matchup. This is how we're going to play.
Yeah.
So, they just don't think that way.
Which is surprising.
Like scheme over everything? Like, forget about the opponent, forget about the matchup. Scheme.
I guess. I don't have a brilliant answer for that.
Let me ask you this question, Greg. In 2020, were they more man? Well, they were way more man in 2020. The Rams. Right?
No. I mean, even last year.
Yeah, this started last year.
Matt Bowen and I talk all the time about the fact that even when Staley was there last year, that he still didn't line up as a true man corner.
But was Ramsey playing more inside earlier this season?
Oh,
he
started that last year.
Yeah, they started that last year at the star position. Yeah, the slot.
Star. Yeah.
They do both. They do both.
Okay.
But they seem to find a way, like Evans, like if it's a big spot on the outside, like Ramsey will be on that guy, most of the time. Greg, George Kittle is just baffling. I mean, he had the big drop in the game, but have you ever seen a guy so dominant drift in and out of the game plan and our consciousness, honestly? I know they want to run the ball, but I just find Kittle to be strange.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that. So I really just don't.
Well, in that game, he was 19 passes. He was targeted 6 times. So he was getting targeted every 3 passes.
Which would be a heavy target.
So I hear you, but they just that was a very odd game. I mean, we don't need to rehash the pain of watching that game last week. Great ending. Interesting.
Yeah, but as they're running for the playoffs, here's Kittle's game log: 2 for 21, 1 for 29, 5 for 10, 1 for 18.
Right.
I mean, that's not a Pro Bowl tight end.
No, I don't. There are a couple things. Jennings, not last week because of the weather. Who knows? But Jennings has been a factor.
Debo getting all the touches. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I know.
I mean, the last time
you would think he would be a bigger factor.
The last time they played the Rams, Week 18, Jennings had big numbers.
He did.
Oh, the 3 of them. They had 297 combined in that game.
Yeah.
3 receivers. Yep.
Let's see. What has he done against those Rams real quick here? Where the heck are we at? Here we go. Man, we have so many damn Rams here on this website. Anyway, neither here nor there. I don't think it's going to be anything riveting to make people change their mind on Kittle. But Adam, real quick, is Mo Sanu potentially going to be activated? I saw
they haven't made a decision. He started practices this week. He's been out for a long time. It's not that he'd be they're not, unless they get behind, which certainly could happen. They're not going to throw very much. He's there. They have a pretty good rotation now. Jennings is the key here. He is like of their backup receivers. He's got to be a factor. Because he's tall and he's put up numbers. And Greg just talked about it. He had a great game in the Week 18 game, whatever it was, Week 17, 18, 18. It's great. Yeah.
Well, Greg, Niners dominating this matchup in the trenches offensively.
Yep.
What about
and defensively?
Yeah, exactly. So your thoughts on how that matchup looked in those two games this year with this. I look at the Ramo line as a little bit more finesse, maybe, but how did they look against this Niner front, which is probably, playing as well as they played all year the last 5-6 weeks?
And they play 9 guys, John. 9 guys get meaningful snaps.
Mm.
Yeah, that is a very intriguing matchup in this game because their front has been arguably as good a front as there's been in the league over the last 5-6 weeks. They get sacks, they get pressures, they move people around. As I know I've mentioned with you guys over the last number of weeks, Arden Key, Samson Ebukam played really well. Now they rotate in Jordan Willis, Charles Amenahu. They get meaningful snaps and they give them good snaps. So this is a tough D line, and they stunt. They move Bosa around at times. So this is an important matchup in this game because Stafford is not immobile, but Stafford at his core is a pocket player, and there are times he gets stuck in the pocket.
Adam, were you surprised that they didn't give Sony Michel any play last week?
Yeah, I thought it was crazy because you gave him 2 draft picks. Akers fumbled twice, and you've got a lead. It all sets up to get Michel in there to be the closer. I can't. I don't know why.
They obviously feel that Akers is the better guy. Despite the fumbles, he had 24 carries.
I know, but they gave up 2 picks for a power runner. You would think this is why you traded for him, and plus the running backs coached him at Georgia, Thomas Brown. It makes no sense to me. No one asked it. I was surprised. I read the transcripts.
Really?
They just talked about sticking with Akers after the fumbles, but they didn't talk about why Michel wasn't in there. That I would have asked.
I would guess that they like the explosiveness of Akers. Like the big playability. Sony Michel's not.
I get it. They're completely different backs.
Yeah, Michel's not ripping off long explosive runs most of the time.
But what I'm saying is when you have a lead like that, I would rather go with a volume runner. Plus, Akers missed 5.5 months.
Yeah,
that's the problem from a coaching standpoint.
Fair.
Why would you make the guy? Why would you have him be the finisher when he hadn't played in 5.5 months? It just makes no sense to me. But
Greg, it's pretty clear that the deficiency on the Niner D is their secondary. Teams haven't been able to kind of get there to exploit it here. But any thoughts on Stafford and the Rams' third time around with the best receiver in the league in Cooper Kupp and OBJ? How's he look, by the way? It seems to be getting better and better. On paper, I guess the matchup against the Ram passing game, their receivers against these DBs for San Fran should be good if you can protect.
And they put up pretty good numbers in the Week 18 game. I would expect they'll put up good numbers. The question becomes critical situations. Niners had 5 sacks in that Week 18 game, and I think a bunch of them came on third down, and they put a lot of pressure on Stafford throughout the game. Now, they'll get numbers because they throw the ball and they got good receivers. So the numbers, John, will be there.
Yeah,
Kupp had 100 yards receiving in each of those games. They lost both.
Yeah. I feel like Stafford kind of settled in last week. He's not that experienced in the postseason. He's got a couple of games under his belt. I know the scheme probably, did a lot for him last week, and maybe Todd Bowles did too. I couldn't believe how bad Tampa's D was, but Stafford, to his credit, seemed like he was brilliant last week.
Right. Oh, well, he's a great thrower of the football. He's always been a great thrower. But we'll see. That has been an area in which the Niners have been dominant as well, particularly in critical situations. Their pass rush. So, that's going to be really important in this game.
Was that a particularly good performance, though? First 3 quarters at least for Stafford in your mind?
Was great. I thought he made some good throws. I didn't come away, I guess, thinking, wow, that was one of the best games I've seen him play. But I thought he made some really good throws.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, yeah, I think we've kind of covered everything here. I don't really have anything else for the games here. It feels a little light, but what are we going to do? We only have 2 games.
We only have 2 games, yeah.
Yeah, we see it through, though, baby. Other people might have said, we'll just stop. No, we're here, baby.
Next week, we're at the Senior Bowl, so we'll skip. So we'll be here for what will we do? We do something from the Super Bowl, John? Or I'll be there.
Greg should.
There.
I don't know if I can do something Thursday. I would have to do something earlier in the week if we did.
Gotcha.
Next week.
Not next
not
week. The
no,
week
week
after, the week
Right,
leading
right,
up
right,
to the
right, right,
Super
right,
Bowl.
right,
I
right.
couldn't do it on Thursday, 3 days before.
Maybe we'll do like a company wide, get, Joe and Tom and
I mean, if you want to do that, I mean, I'd be good to do something, let's say on Monday or Tuesday of that week, but I couldn't do anything after
Yeah.
that.
and by
Okay.
then you've broken down the game by
Yeah,
Monday, right?
my show's in the can.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, we'll do it. So we'll take a week off and return for the final live stream of the 2021 season. That'll wrap it up here. Thank you to Ben Kukanis and Greg Cosell and Adam Caplan. I'm John Hansen. Enjoy Championship Sunday, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks.